Okay, let's try to pick an MVP for this upcoming season. Whole lot of candidates. The order that I talk about guys in doesn't mean anything. It's just the order I happen to do it in. Although I will start with my actual pick. I'm going to go with Luka. I don't remember if I've predicted Luka in the past, but look, Dallas finished with 50 wins this previous year. They were 21-9 after the trade deadline, and I mean, we all get it. Great defense around Luka and Kyrie as they made their final strip. And I'm expecting the defense to just continue that into this new season. I mean, yeah, Derrick Jones is gone. They're hoping Najee Marshall especially can handle those on-ball duties, but Clay will help the shooting. We'll see with the lineup stuff. I've said all this before. But yeah, I think their defense is still going to be really good. So I think their record is going to be better than last year. The other thing too is, and while I know Luka does not enjoy this, Slovenia was eliminated pretty early on from the Olympics, so therefore he's got a whole offseason to take a break and hopefully heal his knee up completely. And just to recap the numbers, I mean, he averaged 34, 9, and 10 this past year on 62 true shooting. And I would expect him to put up similar numbers again. I mean, the only guy who had a higher usage than Luka last regular season was Embiid, and we'll talk about him in this vid. And while sure, I think Clay could add like some extra movement to Dallas' offense, and Kyrie will get his, it's still going to primarily be Luka screen actions, Luka ISOs, etc. And then besides that, just, have the best defensive season that he can have. I mean, it's been proven by now, like he can play heavy minutes in a great defense. He's not going to be the reason it's a great defense, but he can exist in it. Also, he shot 38% from three on 10 threes a game, taking very difficult threes, which is pretty wild. Luka's going to be my pick, but of course we got a lot of candidates to go through. Basically, my case for Luka is he's going to put up crazy numbers, and Dallas is going to win more regular season games than last year. Next, we are going to go to Jokic, who I do think is still the best player in the league, but as we all know, the guy that we all think is the best player in the league doesn't necessarily win MVP every year. And even then, Jokic has 3. A lot of this is a conversation about voter fatigue, because I get it. KCP's gone. I don't think Denver's going to have some big drop-off record-wise. I mean, they won 57 games the previous season. I would expect them to be around there again. And I would also expect Jokic to, once again, just break all of the calculators. I mean, he had a 65 true shooting this previous season, which was actually down from the previous year where it was 70, which is just unreal given how many times he shoots the ball. Which is a small thing where Jokic, he actually did shoot a few more jump shots this previous year, which I think led to his efficiency going from like, how is this even possible, down to like, oh, this is still amazing, while averaging nearly a triple-double at about 26 a game. So his case is going to be as strong as it ever is, in my opinion. However, I think it just comes down to, would the voters want to give him a 4th one? Which, it feels stupid that matters in an MVP conversation, but we all know it matters. I mean, the history of this award, and I'm pretty sure I say this every single time I do this, the history of the award says you're either a first-timer, a back-to-back, or if you get it 3 or more, you're like on the short list of the best players of all time. That's not exclusive, of course. I mean, a good amount of the guys who have 2 MVPs are also on the short list of best players ever, which Jokic is definitely on the path to becoming. We're going to have to see how many titles he ends up with by the end, but he's certainly talented enough to get there. I just don't know if the voters are going to be like, okay, here's number 4 right now. So for whatever all that means. Now we're going to go to Embiid, who I do think before going down was definitely in the running. He was the leading candidate before he went down, unless I'm just not remembering right. And that's probably the biggest case that you can make against Joel in this upcoming race is, will he hit 65 games played? I mean, he had 39 this previous year. The last 2 years, which were full regular seasons, he was right on the line of 65 games played. Of course, the rule was not in place then, but I'm just talking. So yeah, I suppose there's another conversation about, will the Sixers not ask him to score well over 30 points a game again, and it'll be like, well, Maxey can do more, and then PG's here now and everything. That's possible. Maybe Joel's points dip like a little bit. Like, I think he's still going to hit 30 a game. I do also wonder if we could get like another all-defense season from Joel. It's been a few years since he made the team, even if his defensive impact is still very positive. I mean, this last year, their defensive rating was 5 points better when he was on the court. He would have to hit the games mark for that too. But yeah, if Joel can just get past the 65 games played, I mean, drawing a million fouls, making all of his face-up jumpers, having some amount of games throughout the year where the opposing center just looks completely helpless, and doing it all on, I mean, he was like at 64 true shooting when he won the MVP. He could do that again. And then again, big defensive impact anyway. Let's talk about Giannis. I mean, really with Giannis, it's just everything around him. Because for Giannis specifically, he actually had his most efficient season this previous year. A lot of it because he just took less jump shots. He got up to 65 true shooting. We know his defensive impact is still going to be huge. He did end up doing like slightly different things for the Bucks defensively this year, where like he ended up on the ball a little bit more, or like switching a little bit more than perhaps in the past, which I do think was partly the reason why his defensive rebounding dipped a little bit. Not in terms of per game, but like defensive rebound percentage, it went down a little bit. Does that matter at all? I don't know. But look, really, it's like, will Dame be in peak shape? Will Middleton be healthy? Will Brook hold up? Will their perimeter defense be as good as it can be to where they have a big jump from their 49 wins this previous season? And if so, then maybe the voters would give Giannis number 3. Now let's talk SGA. We all loved OKC's offseason, so very real chance they're the 1 seed again. You know SGA is going to once again be at 36-6 or so on great efficiency, and then defensively, I mean, he's probably going to be towards the top of the league again in steals. He was almost at 1 block a game this past season. He was towards the top of the league in deflections per game as well. Of course, that's a big thing with OKC's defense. He's definitely got a shot. And the only case to make against SGA is not really a case against him. It's more so just, does somebody else just put up some crazier numbers, I guess? Because like you compare his previous season to Embiid before Embiid went down. Embiid scored more points, he grabbed more rebounds. Jokic grabbed more rebounds, he had more assists. Luka had more points, rebounds, and assists than SGA. I mean, Giannis's scoring and assists are similar to SGA's, but Giannis nearly doubles his rebounding. And some of this comes down to the fact that, like, SGA, at least compared to Luka and Embiid, his usage rate's a little lower. He has more assisted baskets than Luka does. Granted, both of them are pretty low on assisted baskets, but SGA is like a little bit more. I mean, obviously OKC needs a lot from SGA. Luka, he has like 20 more touches per game than SGA does. Hopefully none of this comes across as disrespect to SGA. It's definitely not my intention. It's more so me saying somebody else is probably going to lead a category over SGA. But for one, I think the voters did put a lot of stock this previous season into the steals and the deflection numbers and all that. 2, OKC was already the 1 seed. Granted, they were neck and neck with the Wolves and the Nuggets, but still, they were already the 1 seed and they had a great offseason. So, like, if they just reach, like, 61 wins next year or whatever, with SGA putting up the numbers he already did, like, that's the case for him to win it. I think the odds are one of the guys I've already talked about will win the MVP, but let's talk about some more guys. Next, we can go to the Suns and the Lakers. So, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, LeBron, AD thing. Yeah, both of these teams just would need to be better. Similar thing with Steph. He would need the Warriors to be way better than last year. Should say that at the time of me doing this, we're only a couple days away from Markkanen's potential extension date with the Jazz, and if he agrees to that, then he cannot be traded for a very long time, potentially for the entirety of next season if they wait 1 day after the 6th. Kawhi needs to be fully healthy, and I mean, we all know what we're asking for there. Now we go to my guy Tatum of the NBA champion Boston Celtics. Not going to get tired of saying that. Look, Tatum would need a full season of the sidestep 3 going in, because in the beginning of the year it was bad, and then it got better. For this previous season, you know what I mean. His passing numbers are never going to compare to somebody like a Luka, and so therefore I think Tatum would have to make up for that by probably having as good of a defensive season as he could have, which, listen, he's a really versatile defensive wing, as we saw in the playoffs, and so, like, is there a world in which he would have serious consideration for, like, all defense second team? Whether that's realistic or not, I think he would need to get to that level. And then as far as the efficiency, he was at basically 60 true shooting this past season, which is really good, but to have a serious case for MVP, like, you'd probably need to get to 63, 64 true shooting, which is a pretty big jump, and that would probably come from just better percentages on his threes and his free throws, which were both good. Like, his free throws were over 80, his threes were at like 38%. Like, listen, when it comes to MVP, you're really just nitpicking little things here that guys are already good at, but you got to compare him versus the other best guys. The big thing with Ant, who has made, listen, progress every single season, playmaking jumps, he's got the Olympic experience this offseason. For as much progress as Ant has made on making contested jumpers, threes especially, it is still the one thing that if he really wants to get an MVP talks, that needs to go to another level, or he needs to, like, adjust the shot chart a little bit. Basically what I mean is this. Last year he shot 33% on pull-up threes, and he took about 4.5 a game, and he shot 43% on catch-and-shoot threes, but those were less than the pull-ups, and about 56% of his threes are assisted. So it's either the Wolves find a way to get him more catch-and-shoot threes, he makes more of the pull-ups, or he turns a couple of those into, more attempts within the three-point line and ideally shots at the rim. And this is specifically for MVP conversations, of course. Ant is a great player. But last season he had a 57 true shooting, which, if you want to be the MVP, it just has to be a higher number than that. Could probably use, like, his turnovers dipping a little bit as well. And I also think making a serious case at all defense, because he's capable of doing that. He's got the athleticism and all that to do it. Would help him as well. So anyway, next we go to Jalen Brunson. He's going to have to score on crazy efficiency. Now the Knicks are going to be great. And we did see Brunson putting up over 30 a game pretty consistently once Randall went out, but Randall's going to be back, and so therefore Randall's going to be taking some of those shots and some of those possessions from Brunson, and so you've already got that. And I mean, I think given the all-around impact that other guys can make I think Brunson would probably have to lead the league in scoring on crazy efficiency to really have a shot. And even then, like, again, you're competing with like Luka, who nearly averages a triple-double. Let's see, Ja Morant. Ja's just going to need a big efficiency jump. Halliburton averaged 20 and 11 this past year. You would just need to score more points, even if the passing numbers are great. At the beginning of the year, his scoring was higher. Then he had the hamstring injury. Carlisle was preaching defense more, and also they got Siakam. It doesn't feel like Hallie's going to be close to averaging 30 a game. Who else puts up big numbers? Donovan Mitchell, he would just have to put up even bigger numbers. I will say, Sabonis did sneak into 8th place last MVP voting. Maybe that happens for him again, I don't know. Wemby will be in this convo one day, but it's not going to be right now. If I missed your guy at the end there, I'm sorry. Anyway, yeah, pick is Luka.